Alright, hello guys, how's it going? In today's video, we need to primarily talk about the weather that's going to be going over the western United States, into the central United States, and eventually out through the eastern United States with that major winter storm during the week this week. And we've also seen signs that we can see a pattern like that continue, really, more major storms across the country. More severe weather in the deep south, not just this upcoming event, but possibly beyond it. I want to talk about that as well. So we're going to get into all of those things within this video. Anyways, before I get into this video, be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. For today's comment of the day, I want to know, do you think that major storms like this upcoming one will continue to happen through the later portion of February and maybe even into the earlier portion of March? Let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are, and I'll be picking one of those for tomorrow's video. Let's get straight into this video, and first things first, we're taking a look here at some storminess across the nation, basically for the northern third, I would say, of the nation. North of that yellow line, we do have storminess, and south of that yellow line, we have practically nothing happening. Rest assured, pretty much everywhere from west coast to east coast will be impacted by the upcoming storm. So in the model guidance segment of this video, I will be touching on basically every single corner of the country. Let's just talk about, first off, the northwest. This is an area that hasn't seen precipitation over the past couple of days, but now we're seeing some precipitation make its way on shore. And this is probably the beginning of our major upcoming storm. It's basically out in the Pacific right now, but I'm sure a lot of these showers have to do with that low pressure that eventually is going to make its way into this region and then dive down south towards California, Nevada, Arizona, and then it's going to come back up over the central United States, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself here. There is some rainfall, definitely, especially over Washington here. We do have some of that snowfall and rainfall over eastern Oregon there as well. And we even have some snowfall over eastern Montana that has kind of dissipated later in the morning here. So those are the three major areas of precipitation right now over the northwest. Now as we move to the north central United States here, we do have some snowfall that's been lingering here. And especially this area near Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and heading into Illinois. That area has really held on lately. This area down here in the south has really dissipated, but that area should all dissipate very shortly. This is going to bring maybe a dusting, if anything, I would say. And then south of there we have nothing. Forgot I said that. I should listen to myself. We do have some snow showers lingering here for the mid-Atlantic region of the United States. These are quite minor, although I think we just had a snow squall warning here in south central Pennsylvania, and that has moved into the greater Baltimore region. Let's see. Yeah. So we've had some snow squalls happening throughout this region with this area of snowfall that heads further south. So yeah, very heavy snowfall, potentially some windiness in that snow squall there. That's what that indicates, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, there is some snow showers around, although, and we did have more snow squalls south of there, actually. I just noticed that as well. So there's some heavier pockets in there, but it's going to be pretty hard for areas of snowfall that are this small to really bring much accumulation unless you already have accumulation on the ground. So keep that in mind. And then we move towards New England, where we've actually had this storm really overperforming for this region, especially Boston and south of Boston. That area has been seeing snowfall for hours and probably has greatly outperformed their expected snowfall totals. So if you are in Boston, if you are in Providence, if you are in Connecticut, Rhode Island, or eastern Massachusetts for that matter, let me know what the conditions are like. Did you get more snowfall than expected? And if so, how much? Please let us know, because it would be very interesting to hear back from you guys on that matter. Now, what we're going to do here, now that we've touched on basically all of these fairly minor events that are going on across the nation, I would say the only major event here is in southern New England that's going on right now. Outside of that, we're going to hop right into the model guidance. We're going to go over these models because, again, there's more severe weather implications. That ice storm is looking even worse, and that snowstorm is looking more uncertain than ever. So there is a lot to go over. And then, like I said, after that storm, I'm actually seeing the signs of our next storms after that one finally. So we're going to have to talk about those as well. Now here we are taking a look at that modeled guidance. This is our coastal storm offshore right here. This one really, like I said, impacted southern New England especially, but we did have some impacts throughout the eastern United States from that storm. It actually got quite windy here along some of our coastal areas here in the east with this storm as it was passing by. It wasn't really There was no precipitation yet, but there was a lot of wind as that low pressure system was really, really close to the coast. And it was never really a super strong low pressure system. So it was really interesting to see that. Now, what we end up seeing happen is we're left with a bit of a trough, obviously. We have this storm passing through, and this is the pattern. We have a trough about there and a ridge about here. But as we've seen the last couple of days, this storm is really going to shake things up as it dives south and then heads in something like this. It's going to get that jet stream basically going in the opposite pattern. So we see it dive down. It's pulling that cold air down. It really is going to pull a lot of this cold air down with it. We'll watch that happen. So we see now the trough is centered over here, and we have a big old ridge right here. So now the jet stream looks about like this. Something like that. A big ridge in the east. So things later in the week, this is Wednesday, February 16th. In the eastern half of the country, things will really be warming up, actually, for a lot of those regions. And out west, things are going to really cool down. So keep that in mind. We do have a lot of snowfall that takes place in here. We will take a look at the total snowfall in a little while. Keep that in mind. But as we move this on, we can see our low pressure system is here. We still have some snowfall lingering for this region. And then over top, we see a bit of wintry precipitation also, a lot of ice here in kind of the in-between areas, and then some snowfall over top. We do expect a little bit less snowfall for those over top regions, but a little bit more ice. And this is day one of that severe weather. And then at the end, we will take a look at the severe weather risk, but along this, what we're basically seeing happen is a cold front pass through where we have the warm air out ahead of it. And as that cold front crushes through that warm air that's been put in place, that is, your very prototypical severe weather event, really. I mean, I don't think this one will be necessarily an outbreak. We will have 2 days of severe weather, but it is looking like the Cape will be a little bit more marginal than what you're typically looking for in a severe weather event. Now, this day 2, this is going to be Thursday, February 17th. We're watching this whole region for some severe weather, and this day looks about the worst, I would say, out of the 2 days that we're expecting most of the severe weather to take place. We have that snow over top still. And then day 3, which things get interesting, but we still have this cold front pouring through, and I think there could be some thunderstorm activity on the day Friday if those storms hit late enough in the day. So also, it's worth noting that the Northeast does get a bit of snowfall from this now, so we're going to need to watch that potential as well. That's going to be heading towards the weekend. And then we're left with a little bit more of a quiet pattern. Looks a little bit something like this, but the jet stream's a little bit flat, but a little bit of a ridge out here, a little bit of a trough there, but it's quite marginal. Now for storm number 1, we're just going to break down our total snowfall here. Generally, we expect a ton of snowfall out west, obviously, for all of these mountain ranges. Now, for this region here, we expect anything from a dusting, if anything, in the grays, 2 to 6 inches there in the blue, 6 to 10 inches in all of these purple regions. There's multiple of those. And then in these pinks here that we're seeing in Oklahoma and Kansas, that's where we're at 10 to 20 inches of snowfall. Also, we get some of those 10 to 20 amounts there for very far northern New York, or very far interior New York, I should say. Which is also fairly interesting. Let's take a look here at the freezing rain total, and as you can see, it's picking up on these amounts again. It's really creating a widespread freezing rain event here, especially for some of these Ohio Valley states and plain states there. Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York seem to get the worst of this freezing rain event, maybe even expecting half an inch to an inch of freezing rain. So we'll have to really stay tuned to see what these totals look like. By the time we're approaching the storm, when we're very close, we'll have a much better idea as to what to expect. Now, this is about the point where we need to talk about maybe some other upcoming storms, because by the time we're reaching the end of next weekend into next week, we're going to be in an interesting scenario because we have another storm starting up on this model. We also have some snowfall out here as well that needs to be watched. This will be a week from today. Keep in mind, we're having another pattern like this. The storm digs up that trough into the western United States again, just like we just are about to see with this upcoming storm. We have a ridge here, but what's interesting is we're seeing a lot of tropical air start to make its way into the east here as these warm-ups approach. So we're seeing these thunderstorms pick up here on the model. So thunderstorms are going to become a thing that's a little bit more frequent as we enter into a flip-flop pattern, but I would say it's kind of like a spring pattern here in the east is what I'm expecting here for the latter half of February. There will be some pretty potent cooldowns at times, but these potent warm-ups that are going to come could feature some very spring-like weather. So keep that in mind as we move forward. As we get closer to a lot of these events, I will obviously touch on it more. But what we've seen here is this storm has moved in about like this. We see a lot of snowfall take place from this storm, but also another cold front developing here. Again, warm air is heading up just like this. Jet stream is about like this. Low pressure system is right there. And this cold front underneath, we're seeing this cold air push further east. And that's what's creating this storminess out ahead of it. And when we look at the Cape, we know we have a lot of Cape for this upcoming event, so that's why I didn't show it. But for this event too, 1,000 plus amounts in all of these greens. But really, thunderstorms will be possible anywhere that there's any color on your screen right now. It really just needs a little bit of Cape, and then thunderstorms are possible. And just in case you're like, oh, well, that's pretty typical, you know, that's low amounts of Cape. This is what we're like right now. So this is what we've been like, and this is what we're like. And 0 Cape. This is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So you see no Cape. That's typical during the wintertime is to have no Cape. But Wednesday, Thursday, Cape starts to move in, and that's when we get our first potential severe weather event. A lot of Cape builds into Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana there. And then we get day 2 of the severe weather event where we get a lot of these Gulf states involved. And then day 3 where I do see some potential, if it can hit late enough in the day, for some thunderstorm activity for the east as well. Although it'll be much more limited than the days on Wednesday and Thursday, where we will have severe weather in the deep south and the south central United States. And then Cape kind of moves out, but that next warm-up comes in, and boom, all of a sudden we have lots of Cape entering into the United States. So that is like one thing that I'm watching for sure, is a spring-like pattern as far as the thunderstorms are concerned. So that storm dives down, and we get that severe weather activity down here really picking up. And we stick in that pattern, if you notice, and I think another storm is diving down again. So we're going to possibly get more locked into this pattern of a southeast ridge, which is bad news for severe weather because, again, that warm air being able to enter its way up into here is what causes these severe weather events to take place. So we're going to be watching this, especially if it continues into the months of March and April. If we see a pattern like this continue, I would expect above average severe weather and tornadoes, honestly, if this type of a pattern continued. These storms coming in from the west and doing just like this, that is a bad setup, especially for these underneath regions. So we will be watching to see if that pattern looks to continue. But as far as the short range, we do expect that pattern to for sure continue. Now the GFS, as far as this snowstorm is concerned, I just want to show you guys. So it has a little bit more snow, moves out, it has the same amount of severe weather and everything. Here's the total snowfall. It is a lot more snowfall, so we haven't seen these models come together yet. My confidence has not come up yet because of that reason, but we do have on this model not just the dusting, if anything, 2 to 6, and then 6 to 10, and then a little bit of 10 to 20. We have widespread 10 to 20 in these pinks, and then even those pastels. See that area right there, this area right here, and this big area in Canada. That's where we're at, 20 inches plus. So we need to be watching that certainly as we move forward, because that is large amounts of snowfall. So we need to see if the European model starts to bend towards the GFS or if the GFS starts to bend towards the European, but only time can tell. Now, as far as severe weather, here is our day 3 severe weather outlook. This will be for the day on Wednesday, so day 1 of our severe weather event. We have general thunderstorm risk there in the green. We also have that for southern Florida as well, which is fairly typical. Then our marginal area there, that darker green, that's where we expect isolated severe weather to be possible for Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and even a bit of Tennessee. We're going to be watching for that. But it's especially this yellow region that we're watching in here for Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. I keep wanting to call Louisiana Oklahoma, even though I'm saying Oklahoma before I say Louisiana. So I'm trying to say Oklahoma twice for some reason. But we do have a slight risk of severe weather, which is going to bring us, well, scattered severe weather, I would say, possible. But I definitely think with the size of this slight risk that they've put here, they have left the opportunity for them to increase it to an enhanced risk. And I actually do think it's a possibility on this day. And the day after this, which we'll take a look at right here, I think it's likely that we see an enhanced risk on this day. and that's going to be Thursday. For Thursday, February 17th, that yellow region there is what we expect to be the slight risk, and then outside of that, it will be a marginal and general thunderstorm risk. We might even get an enhanced risk inside of it, like I mentioned before. Anyway, we're a little bit far away from that severe weather event. We will be touching on it over the coming days. For today's patron, or not for today's patron highlight of the day, I don't know what I'm doing here. For today's confidence tab, we are at a 4 out of 6 still. Confidence has obviously not gone up. If anything, it's really gone down, as those two models still cannot agree on this snowstorm, like I mentioned. So only time will tell what happens with that. For today's comment of the day, I asked you guys, think that February is going to get quieter? And Brandon Dunn said, a somewhat quieter pattern is perhaps more likely for the rest of February. And for the most part, I do expect things to be quiet, kind of like they have been in February. But I think in between those quiet periods will be big storms that roll through that bring those impacts, like snowfall, cold air behind them, and even severe weather. That's kind of what we saw. Through the end of February, we might have like 2 bigger storms, maybe 3, including this one that's coming up. And outside of that, it'll be more quiet. Whereas in months like January, we saw storm after storm after storm with no breaks in between. So we're going to definitely have a little bit of quieter in between, in my opinion. For today's patron highlight of the day, I want to thank you all for supporting the channel, but especially our platinum patrons, Bill Crates, James Wade, Dovey Nagel, Lily the Pan, Mandy Birchfield, Patrick Strickland, Dave Scott, and Donna Carnes as well. I would also thank our diamond patrons, Bill Roberts, Marcus Connolly, Noah Harley, Michael Cuddle, Lessa Capite, Charles Tennant, Bill Dallas, Gary's, and John Calisi also. I'd also like to thank our channel members, Capite, Stephen Finn, and Jeremy Cox as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to smash that like button, leave a comment down below, and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.